What's up everyone, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Today's project is this Briggs and Stratton generator, and the problem is that it won't start. Let's take a good look at it, find out what's wrong with it, and hopefully we can fix it. In this video, we try and repair this generator. However, it may not be the exact repair that you need to make to yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of information about this generator because it's not mine. This thing belongs to a friend of mine, and he didn't have any history on it either. The only thing I know for sure is that it has plenty of oil in the engine and that the gas tank is empty. At least I don't have to worry about draining old stale gas from the plastic tank this time. The next thing I want to check is that it has plenty of compression. To do that, I'm going to slowly pull on the rope and feel how much the engine fights back, and as you can see, I'm practically pulling this thing along the ground, so that means that this engine is not worn out. The next thing I want to check is whether or not the engine will run if I put some gas into the carburetor's throat. If it doesn't run, I'll check to make sure that it has spark by using a spark checker. You can also check by removing the plug and grounding it out to the engine while pulling the rope. If it does run, then I'll remove the carburetor and inspect it for any problems. Fortunately, it ran off the gas that I put into the carburetor's throat, which is great news. Now, to get the carb off the engine, just remove the nuts holding the filter base to the engine and remove the base. There's also an emissions tube connected to the backside of the base, and you'll also need to persuade the choke lever off the top of the carburetor as well. Unfortunately, when I was taking off the fuel line off the carburetor, the fuel fitting itself popped off. Now, this isn't a problem as it's just pressed in, so I'll put it back on later. Now, to remove these studs, you'll need an E6 socket. After that, disconnect the governor linkage and then remove the carburetor from the engine. Now, I have to admit something. Taking these bowl screws off was very difficult. Now, even though these are Phillips head bolts, I would suggest using your largest flathead instead. After taking the bowl off and removing the spring, I can see there is some debris on the plastic parts and at the bottom of the bowl. Now, these need to be cleaned off before we put the carburetor back together. You don't have to remove the float and needle assembly, but it will make cleaning it a whole lot easier. Now, to get to the fuel jet, slide the plastic part off the carburetor and be careful because the jet might fall off just like mine did. If I put the jet in front of the plastic float, you should be able to see a small hole in the middle, but since it's clogged, you won't be able to see it. I'm going to use a wire to get rid of the clog, but you can use some compressed air if you want. After that, check that it's clear, and then we can start cleaning the plastic and metal parts. Now, you can use whatever you want to clean the metal parts, but I'm going to use gasoline when I have to clean near any rubber parts because the carburetor cleaner could damage the rubber parts. Now, you don't have to get it squeaky clean, but make sure that anything that's loose is cleaned away. After that, I'll reassemble the carburetor and install it back onto the engine. Another reason why this generator might not be starting is that the fuel filter in the tank has a layer of varnish covering it. Now, this varnish can keep some or any of the gas from leaving the tank and making it to the carburetor. The test for this is to remove the fuel line off of the carb and make sure that the fuel valve is open and watching how much gas flows out of the line. It should be flowing more than just a trickle, and of course if it's not flowing out of the fuel line at all, then replace the fuel petcock, which has the fuel filter integrated into it. After putting the carburetor back onto the engine, I'm not going to put gas into the tank. Instead, I'm only going to put gas in the line from the tank to the carburetor. I just need to test that it works, and if there's a problem, I don't have to worry about draining the gas from the tank. I also use this method sometimes when I'm test running the generator a couple of times a year. It's also a good idea to put some sort of a load on the generator, so I'll use this halogen work light to do that. Well, it didn't run very long, and that's because I didn't put enough gas into the line. I'll try that again, but this time I'll put more gas in it, and hopefully it'll run a little bit longer. I'm also going to move the work light to the other outlet just to make sure it works as well. Now, while the engine was dying, I was hoping to move the choke lever closed so it would use every little bit of gas that was in the bowl. But it still died anyway, which is just fine. Now, since I know it works, I'm going to put the air filter and its cover back on. If you do decide to put gas in the tank, please consider using some sort of a stabilizer and make sure that you follow the mixing instructions. So my question is, do you think more people should have generators? If I recall the last time I had a major power outage, besides myself, there may have only been one other generator that I could hear in the neighborhood, or are generators not that needed anymore, except for areas that have severe weather like hurricanes or tornadoes? Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask any questions, and I hope to see you in my next video.